In this documentary, I wanted to find out people's experiences with online dating, and I wanted to compare them and make sure that we could have a full assessment of whether online dating is a positive experience for many people or it's a negative experience. I also am going to interview people of different ages and discuss their dating experiences, whether that be online or in person, and really get to know and understand why people choose to online date. The first thing I wanted to do was really get to know my demographic. So I went on my Instagram and I asked them a lot of questions about online dating. For example, whether they'd ever online dated and their experience with that. Maybe I asked them to tell me some stories if they had any. I think it was a good insight into understanding what the 21st century demographic really thought about online dating. It gives such a wide demographic of people in all across the UK of a really focused age, so between 18 to 24. It gave me a really good insight into how they feel. Something which is quite interesting that you can find out when you're on Instagram is if you go and change your Instagram to a business account, you are able to see your audience and what type of audience they are, where they're from, their age, and your percentage of female to male followers. This was really helpful when I was doing my questionnaire because it allowed me to understand the type of people that I was aiming this questionnaire at. I knew that most of my followers were female, 56% of my followers were female, so I'd get most female on. During my research, I found out quite a lot of interesting things about my audience. 50% of them do use dating apps, which is really interesting if you think about it. And what I found interesting was that even though these people use dating apps, they don't actually know whether that's the best way of meeting people. Another thing which really struck me was only 19% of people that use dating apps think that they can trust the people on them. I asked about catfishing, and then I also thought about online dating apps, so discussed which type of dating apps people have been using. A lot of people said Tinder, a lot of people said Plenty of Fish, but Tinder seems to be the most popular one out of all of them. I also thought it was interesting to understand why people dated, whether they date for something casual or relationships. Most people on my Instagram were in relationships, and even though 49% of people were single, only 28% of them actually wanted to be single. And then I thought, let's ask this question. How long after talking to someone online would you meet up with them? These gave me very varying views, whether it be a month, 2 months, and some people even said if the connection flowed and we connected after a day or two, not to waste time. So many people don't really know what the specific time is. People just go off how they feel. Ria, who is 20 years old, and she's got experience with online dating and all the pros and cons of it. She's very in the digital age, and she is online a lot on Instagram and on Snapchat and all these online platforms. I thought by asking her we'd have a good insight into what teenagers, young 20-year-olds might be looking for when they go online. What I would first like to ask you is, what is your experience with online dating? Is it positive or negative?
I have had good and bad experiences with online dating apps like Tinder, Bumble, but in the end they ended up being quite good. The more I used it, the more I kind of realised what to avoid, and like you can kind of tell what people you should avoid as well, because there are definitely like creepy people and weird people on these websites, on these apps, but there are also people like me who genuinely wanted to spend time with someone and get to know them and were looking for a relationship. And I actually found that by using the dating apps. So I would say that overall my experience has been good.
I then went on to interview 39-year-old Sarah, who's just come out of a 5-year relationship and found that dating apps were her way to find someone new. What has your experience been with online dating?
My experience with online dating has been quite mixed, really. I remember years ago when apps like Tinder just launched. This was before my previous long-term relationship. I absolutely hated it back then. You would start speaking to someone and they would just disappear, or you would match with someone and the conversations online were really boring. I don't think I ever got past the "hi, how are you" stage. And Tinder was meant to be easy to hook up with people. It was definitely not. Men also just seemed to use it for casual hookups or sending dick pics, which was great. So when my relationship came to an end last year, I felt a bit out of my depth. Some friends recommended I get back out there, but I just didn't know how. So I tried Bumble first. I mean, Tinder had become known as a bit of a cheap and chavvy app, so I wanted to stay clear of Tinder. And it was hard. Women have to make the first move on Bumble, and I found it difficult to strike up conversations or even make the conversations last. But then another friend told me Bumble was so last season. She had found it hard like me, and she recommended Happen, and that was a lot better. I don't know why, but the men seem nicer on the app. They seem to want to chat more and find out more about you as a person. To put it bluntly, there seemed to be a better calibre of men on Happen.
I decided to chat to my mum about her experience with dating. Obviously, she doesn't have any online experience when it comes to dating, but she has experience of the past, about 25 years ago when she met my dad. So it was really interesting to have a conversation with her about her thoughts and experiences. What was it like dating when you were my age, 20?
Well, you didn't have the option of array of so many people because you didn't have social media. You didn't have that option. You'd meet someone by going out to a nightclub mostly, or through an activity you did.
Yeah. So how did you meet Dad?
I met Dad in a nightclub on student night. It cost 50p to get in.
And then once you'd met Dad, how long did it take before you saw each other again, and how did the conversation go?
So it was not until the January. So by that point, this had been December. Everyone went home from college to home, and I went and had a skiing holiday, came back, went to college, and it was the first weekend back. So, you know, everybody goes out to clubs, and so I went out to a nightclub with your Uncle Andrew and some friends of ours, and I saw your dad across the room. I thought, oh my God, that's him. That's that guy. And
then once you'd met him in the nightclub, how did it go from there? Like, obviously you wouldn't have social media now, so you had to get each other's numbers.
So we got each other's number. Well, I didn't have a number because I didn't have a phone in my house. I had to go to the red phone box around the corner.
So you got his number.
So I got his number, and I must have got his address as well, because in that week, the only contact we had, obviously said goodbye that night and whatever, see you again, was I sent him a postcard with Grace Jones, and then we arranged to meet on the Friday during that week.
Was all through a phone conversation or your...
Yeah, me sending a postcard and,
waiting for that to arrive.
Yeah. And then I went and called him from the phone box on the corner of the road at some point that week. So I kind of left it till the middle of the week, I think, when I thought that the postcard would have arrived.
Yeah, and then you called him.
And then I called him.
So it wasn't anything like now when you can go back and forth with someone instantly. You had to wait.
You could play cool, really good cool in my day. Definitely, yeah. God, trying to play cool now must be really difficult. You've got it there at the end of your finger. I had to go outside the house in the cold, in Leeds, on a really windy street, to a grotty red phone box.
When discussing online dating, it's important to look at both the positive sides and the negative sides of this online dating world. And what's really interesting is that both the people I interviewed did have negative experiences or aspects of the online dating experience they had.
My bad experiences by meeting up with people and just completely different as to how they were on the app or just people who seem quite genuine, but then they just stop talking to you. You know, they've been very mixed.
Sarah also had some experiences that weren't the ones that she was expecting when using online dating.
I ended up talking to quite a few guys, and around 3 or 4 of them suggested meeting up. I did get a couple who clearly just wanted it to be about sex, but coming out of a 5-year relationship at the time, that wasn't really so bad. I didn't really know what I wanted at the end of the day. But then one evening, after a particularly grueling therapy session, I matched with a really funny guy on Happen, and I've enjoyed quite a few dates with him so far. His situation is difficult. He's not fully separated from his ex-wife yet, which would probably send a lot of people running. But, you know, I kind of looked through the gaps, I suppose. You know, he shares 2 children and he doesn't really want to brand this as an affair or risk losing his children. He's just sick and tired of being in a loveless marriage, and, you know, it's been over for a while. I mean, is he telling the truth? Time will tell. He is really trying hard to show me he's genuine. And despite how icky his situation is, he really takes the time to talk to me honestly. He sends me photos when I'm like, are you telling me the truth? And even during this coronavirus isolation, we're talking every day. And, you know, you do have to wonder if someone is just in it for an affair, would they really be taking the time to talk to you every day? So, yeah, it does make you think. But I'm treading carefully. I mean, it's easy to accept lies and deceit in this day and age.
After looking back at this documentary and looking at the interviews I've had with people, it is clear that there are 2 sides to online dating. On one hand, you can see that people clearly believe that they can find the one on these websites, and it is accessible. When in this busy world, are some people going to be able to find someone in person? This allows people to find people when maybe they wouldn't actually be able to if they had to date in person. Maybe 20 years ago it wouldn't have happened for them, but this offers people a new ring of people, a new circle of people for them to get to know and meet. On the other hand, there is an obvious aspect of the online dating world that we can't truly trust, and trust is such an important aspect when you think about meeting someone and actually dating someone. It does beg the question whether these online dating apps can somehow overcome this issue of trust that has been so prominent in all the stories that we've heard, or is people who sign up to these online dating apps just going to have to accept that trust is something that is earned, and through online dating you can't trust everyone you speak to.